Yeah, the US got back into it for a bit in the second half and had a bit of pressure. But the amount of chances England created, it was 3-0, but truthfully, it could have been 5 or 6.
Look, for me, given the changes Gareth Southgate made, I feel the bigger story here is England and how well they performed. Yes, it's against a US team, a poor US team. I think people have gotten carried away with maybe the quality of the squad ever since that draw with France pre-World Cup. And now all of a sudden there was this feeling or this belief, or at the very least a rhetoric from some quarters that this was a good team, the youth in this team, and I never kind of fell into that trap. All that being said, if you saw the England team sheet before the game, you'd think this is an opportunity for the US to double down on that France result. And when you see that performance, you see exactly how tough a job Gareth Southgate has in deciding who's his best 11, and maybe how well positioned England are for their own future.
Listen, the first half for me wasn't a competition, and yes, the US had a young side out, and yes, England had some new faces, but they're experienced new faces in the Premier League in particular, and I think that experience showed. But to me, the big thing I got from this game was Sancho. I mean, yes, he's been doing great for Dortmund at his club level, but he stepped on the field and he showed the young American guys that regardless of how inexperienced you might be at international level, if you have the confidence and the desire to do well, you can do well.
I want to bring up this tweet, and it kind of sums up a lot of US fans that we've seen on Twitter over the last couple of hours, saying USA looked terrible today. Add to the fact that this was against England reserves makes it even more worrying for the so-called prospects. They need someone who can coach them the basic tactics. Well, is it really that simple?
I'll pick you up on that. First of all, let me just go back a bit. US soccer are becoming a bit of a, you might say a joke, I could say a bit of a joke over this managerial appointment. Right? It's just dragging on for too long. Somebody needs to get in and need to get a structure. You keep leaving it and leaving it and leaving it. Point, in my opinion, with that tweet, where the tweet would be wrong is you're really not coaching players at international level for such a short period of time. These players are coached from kids and up through their club level. Yeah. They're coached Monday through Friday before their game on a weekend at the club. That's where the coaching is done. You, as an international manager, start working on where a player's strengths and weaknesses are, what positions he can play in, how does he fit in with team. But you're not really working on your technique when you're turning up for international games. So that's a direct problem from the clubs to the national team, not necessarily the national team.
But at the same time, you've got a US team, a young US team, inexperienced, and all the cliches that go along with it, playing for what is effectively an interim manager. And that's never a good position to be in as a player when you're not quite sure who the next boss is going to be, whether you're going to fit into their plans, how they want to play, what do I do now to kind of play my way into those plans. And in all honesty, US soccer has handled this farcically. It's over a year since that loss against Trinidad and Tobago. And yet still, despite all the changes, administratively on down, you have an interim coach. And that's not a good way to move your game forward. That's not a good way, a good position for any of these players to be in, regardless of how good they are, regardless of the potential. I sympathise with the young players in that regard, certainly.
Isn't it just a fair statement to make that the players aren't good enough? Look at the England squad. How many of the US players get into that squad?
I think you can say the players aren't good enough for what people expect. For some reason, I don't know when this started, but when I came to this country, you know, when the US were doing well in World Cups, and getting out of group stages, you know, they were keeping it tight and they were breaking on teams, and that's how they did it. All of a sudden now, everybody in the US expects the US national team to be a Manchester City or a team like that who are going to open up and play all this lovely open-flowing football. They're not capable yet of doing that. But so every time they step on the field, people are going to be disappointed, regardless.
I mean, but my big question here is, good enough for what? What are we expecting out of a US team who failed to qualify for the World Cup against an England, albeit many changes, but an England team that got to the World Cup semi-finals? Of course this was going to be a lost cause. And that's the trouble or the challenge. Whenever the US plays well, it's trumpeted to be a whole lot more than it actually is. And when they don't, all of a sudden, US soccer has been dragged back in the dark ages. This team, as always, with every single US team, will be judged on how they compete in CONCACAF. And ultimately, there is one real challenger to that title over the long term, and that's Mexico. Yes, we've seen Costa Rica do really well over the last couple of cycles, but ultimately, US will be judged shoulder to shoulder with Mexico. And they need to figure this out because these qualifiers will come around quickly, and they have to have a plan, a long-term plan.
Welcome into Extra Time. Before we address your tweets, I feel it only fair that we address a tweet that's been put out by one of our pundits this evening, which just said, "Goodbye, Twitter." Mr. Nicol, what's happened?
Well, gone off Twitter, huh? As it said, goodbye. What does that
an
normally mean?
emotional outpouring. A lot of people saying, no, stay on it, we love you.
I've no idea, because I've turned it off.
I know that.
I wouldn't know.
Get back on, have a little look. We're still waiting for Adele to tweet.
Well, that could change things.
Listen,
that could change everything.
She's had plenty of time to tweet me and hasn't, so she's too late.
Wow.
Your loss, Adele.
Well, he can't still. Well, he keeps saying he's turned it off, which he hasn't. Somebody uninstalled the app, but he can still access it via his desktop.
Yes.
Oh, aye. I'm going to be able to do that,
And he can go down to the boys at the
I can only turn the computer on.
He can go down to the boys at the Genius Bar at ESPN at the CAF,
Bar.
the IT boys, and he can get them to
They are going to run a mile.
figure out his password again.
Where does Wayne Rooney rank among the all-time England greats? What's wrong? Why are you looking around in a weird way?
You're English. You should be the one answering that.
Well, the all-time England greats would be the boys that won the World Cup.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah, and I think, you look at Wayne Rooney, what did he do at big tournaments? Not much in that sense.
All-time leading scorer.
Yeah, no, I accept that.
When last has England done well at a big
Well,
tournament?
we got mates at the semi-finals, Shaq. That wasn't too bad.
And who in that squad is greater than Wayne Rooney?
No, not at the moment.
No one.
However, it's a stepping stone, isn't it, towards that.
What?
Like, if Harry Kane wins the World Cup, doesn't matter how many goals he gets, he's part of a team that's won the World Cup. So he eclipses Wayne Rooney as an all-time England great, sure.
So we're thinking future greats involved in
Well,
this?
no, I'm just putting that argument forward.
Okay, all right. Just making sure.
Paolo, you're English. What do you think?
Well, I'm half English. I'm English when it suits me internationally, obviously. Look, he's the all-time leading scorer. Obviously, that rates him pretty highly. But I sort of agree with the guys who are just saying it feels like emotionally, the players you think of are the greats, the ones who win things. And in England, that's obviously a very small pool. I think even the players who've gone to semi-finals and had heroic exits, you feel like there's a little bit more of a national attachment to them. I'm not quite sure that Rooney ever had that, he didn't have that moment, and I guess I'm not quite sure if fans think of him in the same way, but he's certainly going to take some catching as the top scorer for the next little while.
How come more people never pitched up for this game?
Well, 70,000. I suppose they could argue that that's quite a lot of people.
Okay. All right, move on.
Okay. Should Zlatan return?
Hey, how bad was Wayne Rooney, huh? He was really rubbish. Honestly, you want to listen to yourselves talking as if he was rotten.
No one's saying he's
Well,
rotten.
it's coming across as if he was rotten. Yeah, well, okay, you never won nothing. They've done nothing since '66.
I know, but for example, I would have Gary Lineker.
70 years ago,
I'd
is
have
it?
Lineker above Rooney because of what Lineker did in major tournaments.
So for a 3-week spell, you're going to have Lineker?
Yes. Yeah. I think I would as opposed to,
Right.
to qualifiers.
That's the question.
Are you saying you're going to put somebody over another because of what they did in major tournaments? Is that what you're saying, Dan?
What? Yes, on this instance, yes.
Okay, no problem.
Remember
I was just making sure. Moving on, move on.
Listen, just put that in the bank and remember
There
it.
you go. You said.
Yes,
Nobody
10
said Wayne Rooney's
just
gonna-
making sure.
Scoring goals for a decade for England, but
When-
Maybe no one
3
said-
weeks every summer holidays, and Lineker's better than Rooney. Fair enough.
All-time England great is the question.
Yeah.
But Lineker.
But you just agree. You just said, 3-week spell. Yes.
Why
So you're going to come back now?
I just don't know why you're being weird about this for a 3-week
Not
spell.
being weird. You just made it sound as if Rooney was like average and was just lucky to get 1,000 goals or whatever has he got? That's what's sticking in my craw.
I know. I
Cover the
noticed
crosses
it.
every run.
Do you notice how angry he's getting?
Your average Joe. A proper player.
I thought ever since he's been off Twitter, he's been angry.
You need a platform. You need a platform to get rid of this.
Well, what's he ever done? What's he ever done?
But you're judged internationally by your performance at major tournaments, aren't you?
Why, you and I are Scotland greats.
What are you shaking your head?
Not many have been sent off in a major tournament.
How did Giggsy do at major tournaments?
Right, but Giggsy's an all-time Welsh great.
This is so good.
Yes?
Right, but he never played in a major tournament.
But who are we comparing him to?
John Charles?
Right, let's move.
Dafford Evans? Big Dafford? His dad?
Oh, goodness. Should Zlatan return to Europe? Paolo.
What, an holiday?
What, Brexit?
His holiday?
He better hurry up. If he's going to England, he better hurry up.
He might not get in.
I didn't even hear the question, to be honest with you.
That's all right. Should Zlatan go back to Europe?
If someone in Europe will have him, sure, why not? The Zlatan World Tour should go on as long as it can. I'd like to see him go back to Sweden and win things at Malmo again. I think that'd be a nice way to end his career. I mean, you know, to be back, well, back in his hometown and the place that he cares about, I guess, as a fan.
Is he an all-time Swedish great because he didn't win anything? Well, I don't know. Thoughts on Maradona?
Oh, right, the major tournaments.
You just think he's average, you.
That's it. Yeah. Thoughts on Maradona saying that Mourinho is better than Pep? I don't know why we listen to Maradona. I don't even give him any airtime. Let's move on.
I mean, he was a pretty good player.
Yeah, but now...
Don't say that. He'll be having to go to you in a minute.
Is Cancelo the best right back in Europe currently? He has everything. Paolo.
That's a big shout. Best right back in Europe. I don't know if he has everything. He's playing very well. He's, you know, like a lot of the best right backs. I think as soon as we see a good right back now, it's always someone who has a tendency to get carried away a little bit too much upfield. Sometimes doesn't always do as much as they should coming back. But he's a very good player. Yeah, he might be the best in all of Europe. I'll have to have a think. I'll have to go through my full list here.
I think I'd take, at the moment, I think I'd take Kyle Walker. Not always defensively the best, but I think he's improved in that area, and he just can get up and down, cover, do everything at the moment.
Why is Craig Burley so mad? Saying that even though he is my favourite pundit. Oh, that's nice.
I'm not mad. He's the angry man.
So they knock you down to build you up? That's a different approach. He's so mad. He's
Who's the meanest tipper on the panel?
Moreno. Guaranteed.
Because he didn't tip the lifeguard.
No, I can just tell he's counting the pennies when he's out. I'm telling you. Guaranteed.
Where's that come from?
I think Ali would. I imagine that his wife has.
oh, because he didn't tip a lifeguard.
I know, this is it.
I've got no problem tipping when I go for a drink or go for a meal.
Thank you, Mr. Lifeguard. I wasn't drowning, but you were there. Could see you looking.
So what do you tip in America here? It's 20%.
Yeah, so someone, I think it was Stuart Holden when we went out, said just double the first number.
Really?
So if it's $30, it's a $6 tip.
Yeah.
I always.
So that's kind of a rule.
I do 20%. I don't go below 20 in America. Here in the States.
But it's something you have to get used to.
Yeah. When you move from the UK, it's a bit of an eye.
So just to check that, if it's a $100 bill, it's a $2 tip.
Yes, all right. You hate Inter. Shut up.
told you those Italians are tight as well.
So we know the tightest tipper is. It's Paolo. Paolo is the worst tipper.
I have to say, as soon as the bill comes, and we'll look at the tip, and I'll go, right, where we're leaving, and she'll go. My missus always goes, just think, that could be one of our kids working as the waiter or the waitress. So think about that when you're leaving a tip.
What'd you leave, 5%?
100%?
What'd you give us that?
Aye, shall we bring up the worst tipper in the soccer department on ESPN? In fact, he doesn't even get to tip, because normally when the bill's coming, he does a runner.
Who is it? Who is it?
Who is it, Greg?
Who is it? Come on, you can't stop there.
He's a commentator. He's a play-by-play, and he's Scottish.
Who's that?
Oh, the big man. The guru.
Who's that, Stevie?
The guru.
Oh, was he,
Fantasy guru.
had you not worked it out before I said that?
No.
Well, what happened? What happens? He moved towards the door as the meal's getting late on, and people are finishing. He starts moving along, and then as soon as the guy or the girl brings the bell, right, we're splitting it 6 ways. Oh, we'll be splitting it 5 ways now. He's gone.
That is it. Come on, we need to get home before this snow comes. Sorry.
Snowing. There's a TV behind us in the studio here, and it's chucking it down.
Yeah, it's snowing. A lot.
Right.
Behind us.
In front of us, behind the cameras.
Wayne Rooney's just not that good.
Well, they say any publicity is good publicity. Premier League weren't listening. Richard Scudamore getting $5 million as a payoff. Discuss.
I mean, what's surprising about this? You've got a big corporate entity in the Premier League who've seen huge growth and huge financial successes under the leadership of Richard Scudamore, who's been there for 19 years. Let's remember how far this league has come, certainly in terms of revenues under Scudamore. And now he gets a payoff in stepping up for his position of $5 million, which, look, I understand the concern and the outcry from fans groups and supporters, but this is nothing unlike what we continue to see with big businesses, be it in Wall Street or anywhere else.
That's the issue here, and we'll get to the vulgarity according to the fans in just a second. But because this has been mentioned and it's been put on a pedestal, man gets $5 million to leave, you're right with regards to all these industries that do it, but it never gets reported. It's part of their accounts, of course it is, but because this has been made into headline news, you've got your pitchfork society complaining.
Well, and listen, again, I understand and I sympathise, and as a football fan, I feel the same way. But just knowing how businesses run, and you spoke just now about it, and how these things are done and covered up and swept under the carpet, you know, this is not unlike any company trading on the stock market who's done well over a period of years and rewarding their CEOs. It's absolutely absurd, but unfortunately, if we continue to accept it on Main Street, you're going to get it in the football stadiums as well, no?
What chance of Mr. Scudamore saying, you know what, with all the furore that's resulted with the comment about the $5 million, I'll give it to charity or I won't take it? That's not going to happen, though, is it?
I don't think so. It'd be nice if it does.
No one turns down $5 million.
No, it doesn't. And listen, don't get me wrong. At the same time, Scudamore has made an atrocious amount of money over the last 19 years. And again, understandably so. Par for the course in terms of in these industries and the kind of successes that the Premier League has experienced over the last 2 decades. Similarly, these golden handshakes are par for the course. Now, I think what he'll do is just wait for the noise to die down. It inevitably will. And just kind of accept his money. Now, it might surprise us all and donate it, as you say, but that will be a surprise to me.
There's no doubt the Premier League has come on leaps and bounds in the 19 years that he has been in charge. But remember, he was the man that thought a 39th game was a good idea. Alongside the former Premier League goalkeeper Shaka Hislop to talk about a current Premier League striker, Alvaro Morata. He doesn't have his problems to seek, does he, at Chelsea? Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It's clearly he suffered a loss of confidence just after, probably midway through last season, and hasn't been able to get it back. Stylistically, I'm just not sure that he fits with the Premier League, given the physicality of the Premier League. And then once things kind of get away from you, it's very hard to get it back.
He's sought help, he's seen psychologists and various other things. I mean, I could suggest it might have been best if he'd seen a striking coach as well. But it's frustrating for Chelsea fans, isn't it? Because they know he's a good player, but is he a great player?
I think the jury's still out on that. And given his CV and the clubs that he played for, temptation is to say, yes, he is a great player. But at the same time, during his time at both Real Madrid and Juventus, he was never the #1 striker. And given that opportunity at Stamford Bridge, I thought he started well, but then lost his way and hasn't been able to refine that. So you understand why, he's now seeking psychological help. I think that's a huge positive step in the right direction, and one that a lot of players have sought before, but not many speak about. At the same time, though, the comparisons with Fernando Torres are there for everybody to see. When you lose your confidence in this manner, like I said before, it's hard to get it back. I'm not sure how he does.
Chelsea have now got a decision to make, haven't they? Because under Sarri, they're title contenders. Do they A, keep faith with Morata, or do they B, say, let's cut our losses, let's bring someone in the January transfer window?
Well, you also have Olivier Giroud there, who certainly earlier this season you heard Eden Hazard speak very highly of, and I think that's more with the way that Giroud plays, holds the ball up, and allows the like of Hazard or Willian or Pedro to do their thing, sitting just in behind. So there is that option. I think Chelsea finished top 4, and to start this season, I think that would have been their target. But if Chelsea really want to threaten the likes of Manchester City and now Liverpool, they need a striker who can contribute, not just in terms of holding the ball up, not just in terms of 7 or 8 goals a season, but if Chelsea are able to get a striker that contributes 20 goals a season, and you continue to have the output from the midfield that they do, then all of a sudden I think they give Manchester City and Liverpool something to think about.
He's a father of 5, so he's a wee bit more sympathetic to the cause than others might be, but he doesn't think Morata is a long-term solution at Stamford Bridge.
The latest edition of the Serials and Podcasts is available now over on the website, and this week it gets pretty feisty.
It all collapsed against Atalanta, against freaking Gasperini. We're talking about Gasperini.
Yeah, who's a wonderful coach.
Oh, yeah.
He's a wonderful coach. Are you joking?
Yeah, no,
a great coach.
I'm not a huge fan.
Every year on a budget that is
He
smaller than other clubs,
creates
he's putting
stars,
this team in Europe.
he loses them, and then he continues
and-
to destroy Roma. He destroys Inter. It's
He's
wonderful.
at Atalanta. It's not like he's at Chievo, by the way.
ESPN FC laugh every time Atalanta's mentioned because they consider them to be the smallest team in the planet, practically.
We'll take it up with them.
Paolo, it looks like you have some interesting exchanges on that couch. Do you ever fear for yourself?
I never fear for myself. I sometimes worry because, as you guys may have spotted, me and Gab, we're not small people, and Mina always ends up in the middle of the couch between us. I worry sometimes it looks like we're two giants over either side of her bearing down on her. But this time we were disagreeing with Gab, so it worked okay, and he deserved disagreement on this one because he was dead wrong. Gasperini's a fantastic coach and does an incredibly good job at Atalanta.
This young American features quite a lot in the transfer radar. Christian Pulisic. Liverpool, this destination this time. You having it?
Not for the first time we've seen this link, probably not for the last, and given who it is, I'm going to guess that we're going to keep seeing it over and over. But I'm convinced that Pulisic is in the right place. As much as I understand the link, especially given Jurgen Klopp is the Liverpool manager, and again, why it keeps coming up, I don't think he moves just yet. Not featuring heavily right now, but I think that changes. He's in the right place to keep learning his trade.
We've seen players go from the Premier League to MLS. Don't see many going the other way. Almiron leaving Atlanta for Rafa's League of Nations.
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn in this one. I like Almiron as a player, really do. But Newcastle have got Ayoze Perez, who plays in the same position. And I'm not sure that's Newcastle's biggest need right now. Look, Newcastle aren't a great... Yeah, they're not a great team, and I think that's got to do with their tactics as much as anything. But then you understand Rafa Benitez has his hands tied. So I really want to sit on the fence. I'm going to go hit just because Newcastle need players, though I do think that number 10 role is way down the list.
This one seems to be gaining traction.
Yeah, Aaron Ramsey available on a free transfer this summer. Is he the right fit for Bayern Munich? Again, I'm a little bit torn in this one. Part of the issue is I'm not sure that Niko Kovac, given some of the issues we've seen from Bayern Munich, is the long-term solution for Bayern Munich as a manager. Are we sure he's going to be the manager next season in that case? Are we sure that Ramsey's going to be a fit for that new manager? So I'm going to err on the side of caution with this one, unlike the previous one, and say miss.
I wonder if Jose Mourinho knows his best first choice pairing at the back for United. Does Smalling stay, or does he take his hairstyle to Merseyside?
Well, I don't think Jose Mourinho knows right now, and given the problems that they've had with Lindelof and Bailey and everybody else who plays a centre-back for Manchester United, I'm not sure that they let go of Smalling either. United have an option year on his contract, so it's not going to be as easy as many are suggesting. I'll put that down as a miss. United still have a lot of cards in their favour in that one.
You're the best at this, by the way, because it's flamboyant. You give it a little swish.
That's the West Indian in me.
Cool. Fabinho to AC Milan. It's not worked at Liverpool, has it?
No, it's not. I see this working as a loan. Given how much Liverpool paid for Fabinho, I'm not sure they get that money back right now. Maybe a loan, maybe he does well, maybe he gets the money.
Pointing a lot today. That's what he's got. 2 hits, 3 misses. Shaka Hislop's favourite time of the week. He gets to look into his crystal ball and predict football results.
Because I get them so right.
The horizontal flag against the vertical flag. The Netherlands against the French.
I'm going to go for a draw here. I think the Netherlands have been much improved under Ronald Koeman, and you've seen that play out during the course of this league. France, though, still world champions. Tough to beat. I'm going to sit on the fence.
I did the Dutch against the Germans, the commentary of that one, and the Dutch were good. The Germans were rubbish. France aren't rubbish. France will win. Wales against Denmark.
Yeah, an interesting reverse between these two in Denmark. This one at Wales, and more to the point, I think they have something to prove. I think the players have a whole lot to prove. I'm going to go for the home team here.
We'll sit on the fence and go for a draw. Italy against Portugal, that's a good one.
It will be. I'm going to go Portugal to get the win in Italy. I'm still not that convinced.
Listen to the audience. I mean, they stunned by that. Stunned. Away win for Portugal.
You watch.
We will. Your history, the Shaka curse is still...
Don't know what you're talking about.
No. Croatia, England. Right, okay. So, you played at the World Cup in '06 for Trinidad, but you were on the bench for England. How close did you get to coming on?
For England? Not very.
Oh. No way a Scotsman's going for England. We've got Albania and Israel to worry about. Germany against them again. Wait a minute. That's a different flag from that, and it's the same country. That's cool. It's a bigger flag. Does that give them more power against Germany?
I have no idea what you're talking about. So I'll just keep moving on.
That's just a normal day in the office then, isn't it? Is it bigger? It is. It's like longer and thinner, and that's thicker. More girth.
What are you talking about?
Just saying.
It's the same thing.
Bigger. That's what we've got this week, boys and girls.
That's what I've got every week.
So from the start of the new Premier League season next year, VAR will be part and parcel of the game. Yes or no? Happy?
Absolutely. I think this is, it's about time. And as much as I sympathise with the managers and the league voting not to have it this season, at the time the vote was taken, there were still a lot of issues. Bundesliga, Serie A, all had their problems. And no one was quite sure what to expect from VAR. And then you had the World Cup, and you saw the successes of it. And then just to start this season, you continue to see mistakes being made and how costly those mistakes are in a league where so much is at stake, financially for individual clubs and for the league as a product. It makes sense to have the referees have this come to their aid, because we are seeing too many mistakes now that, for me, isn't good for the game.
What will be the biggest beneficiary of VAR in the Premier League?
That we don't have the kind of silly, costly mistakes. Now, this is not a 100% field safe, so let's not expect it to be. Humans are still involved in this process, so therefore there will be some debate, there will be mistakes made. That's has to be accepted. But what you can't have, people aren't willing to accept, are the huge errors that mean one team wins the league over another, or God forbid, one team ends up dropping points and are relegated because of a referee mistake that VAR could have avoided. These are huge and costly decisions.
Are you surprised that it's not come in before now?
No, I'm not. As I mentioned, at the time the vote was taken back in April, I understood the concerns. I understood that the fact that it was still a work in progress. But then I think it all turned with the World Cup. FIFA brought in their own sets of protocols. Referees understood the technology, and you saw it implemented to far better effect over the course of that tournament than it had been done over the course of a season in MLS, in Germany, in the 8 different leagues who were running, who were using it at the time. At the same time, in England, it was employed disastrously in the FA Cup. So you understood the vote, and you understood why they said, let's just pump our brakes here a little bit and see where this goes. At the same time, you now understand why they bring it in as quickly as they have.
Just finally, we all enjoyed the passion of Charlie Austin at the weekend, who was clearly feeling hard done by. VAR would have solved that. Would it also now take a little bit of the passion away? Will we get those?
No.
No? You don't think we'll get those post-match interviews anymore now?
Why do we want those post-match interviews? We want players to be talking about the game. We don't want players on doing post-match interviews talking about the referee or mistakes being made. I think football will still have all the passion, all the discussion, all the debate. I just don't understand the need to be talking about referees. I don't want that. As I said from the get-go, I prefer to have a correct decision in 4 minutes than a wrong decision in 4 seconds. I don't want Charlie Austin talking about the referees. I want Charlie Austin talking about the game.
VAR in the Premier League from next season. What's Burley going to moan about?
You find something, trust me.
Bayern Munich been struggling of late. A lot of questions about the age of their squad. Kingsley Coman came out and said, we have a very good team, but it's true, it's aging a bit. You must think about new players at the right time. That new player, according to reports, could be Aaron Ramsey. Of course, he's out of contract to Arsenal at the end of the season. Is that a good signing for Bayern Munich? Is that the right
It's a good sign, good thing for Aaron Ramsey.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
But for Bayern Munich, a player that can't get in the Arsenal starting 11?
I've always been a fan of Aaron Ramsey as a player, but more so coming back from that injury, the broken leg that was horrendous, bone sticking out. Any player that can mentally come over that. However, I personally think there's a level where he can play at, and I think Bayern Munich are looking for a better player than that.
At the same time, I think it's a gamble worth taking if you're Bayern Munich. Look, I think Aaron Ramsey would get into the Arsenal team, but for this contract holdout and everything that's gone with it. At the same time, from a business perspective with Bayern Munich, you sign him, if it works out, great. You have a good player. Hold on.
Look at his stats.
Hold on. If you don't, there'll be a queue of English clubs willing to pay for his services for a player that you get for free. So even if it's only 6 months, it makes perfect sense, perfect business sense for Bayern Munich.
This player will be 28 in December.
At his best, and when fully fit, yes, he's a good signing. But I'm a little sceptical. You know, you think all the games he's missed. Is this what Bayern need? No, it's not. Bayern need young, fresh talent, but that's up and coming. I don't think they want to go and sign another experienced guy. You've got one of the players coming out and saying that they're aging, but yet you're going to sign a player who's, in my opinion, going to start dropping off, and who you can't rely on to be fit. So I don't think it's a particularly good signing for Bayern Munich.
It's a no-lose for Bayern. It's a no-lose.
Well,
how was it?
It's a no-lose, but they're trying to get back to the top of the tree in Europe again, and by signing a player who's a good player, but probably wouldn't get in the 3 top teams in England at the moment. Never mind, you know, he won't get in the Liverpool team, he won't get in the City team, and he probably wouldn't get in the Chelsea team. So how is that taking Bayern Munich to the next level?
Look, if it works out, great. It's a gamble for a player that has shown in the past that he's an incredible talent. If it doesn't, you sell him on to England. It's a free transfer. I just think it's a no-lose for Bayern and a gamble well worth taking.
Let's welcome Paolo Bandini into the show, of course. A big Arsenal fan, Paolo. Where do you stand on Aaron Ramsey? How highly do you rate him, and is Bayern Munich the right club for him to go to?
I rate Aaron very highly. I think it's always been a slightly awkward fit just because the number of players who want to do the same thing in that Arsenal midfield. Too many guys who want to be the creative player just behind the attack, who can make the runs forward, who can sort of carry forward and join the attack. And yeah, when Mesut Ozil is going to be the guy most of the time, it doesn't leave space for Aaron to do what he thinks he does best. And I think what he's shown for Wales, I don't know where Chelsea came into my head from. What he's shown for Wales is that he's very capable of carrying a team when he's given that responsibility. And I think that to disagree with Craig a bit there, I think that the issue with Ramsey is not that you look at this for Bayern Munich and say, oh, this is the whole solution to the problem of ageing. Of course, you need to do more than they have, but it puts me in mind of what Juventus have done very successfully in getting back to the pinnacle of European football, which is supplement smart investment in youth players with any opportunity to bring in a good, experienced, international caliber player for nothing. You've seen them do it with Sami Khedira, you've done it with Patrice Evra, done it with Blaise Matuidi. None of them players who I think you necessarily look at the time and go, oh yeah, they step into any team, they go into the biggest clubs in Europe without hesitation, but all of whom have had really big contributions to making Juventus go to 2 Champions League finals in 4 seasons. So I think as part of a greater strategy, it can be a great signing.
But hold on, Paolo, you know, with respect, you know, Sami Khedira's a World Cup winner who was coming in from Real Madrid, and Patrice Evra, did you say Patrice Evra there? Was coming in from Manchester United through one of their most successful periods in their history. As good a player as Aaron Ramsey is, he's playing for an Arsenal team that's only been challenging for FA Cups. I mean, there's a difference in category here of player.
You know that big thing, Pablo? Pablo, beg your pardon?
You've been listening to Mariner,
listening to Mariner. You know, all those players that you're talking about that went to Juventus, Juventus was sat at the top of the tree. So it was a lot easier and a lot smoother for them to come in and play cameos or make themselves or get themselves in there. That's not what Bayern Munich are right now. Bayern Munich need to make a statement, and Aaron Ramsey is not a statement for them.
Quickly, Pablo.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, you're right that Evra had done things, but Evra was very much discarded by at that point. Manchester United was not viewed as someone at the top of his powers anymore. And I would also say that just because Ramsey hasn't played for a team that has had the structure around him doesn't mean that he isn't, as a player, capable of providing plenty.